another gentle journey with the Sleeping Wanderer. Tonight we're traveling together to the mystical hills of Sintra, Portugal, where morning mists dance through ancient cork forests and fairytale palaces emerge from the clouds like dreams made stone. There's no rush, no agenda, just a peaceful exploration of one of Europe's most enchanting destinations, where romantic gardens cascade down emerald hillsides and Atlantic breezes carry the scent of eucalyptus and wild roses. Before we begin our restful adventure together, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy these sleepy travels. And drop a comment below, telling me which magical destination you want us to visit next. Now, settle into your most comfortable position. Take a deep, peaceful breath, and let your eyes grow heavy as we prepare to wander through Sintra's mystical realm. You're about to experience this UNESCO World Heritage Site in the most tranquil hours of dawn, when the tourist crowds are still sleeping and the town belongs only to the morning birds and drifting fog. Picture yourself arriving in Sintra just as the first hints of light touch the eastern sky. The air is cool and fresh, carrying that distinctive Atlantic moisture that makes everything feel soft and dreamlike. You're standing at the edge of the old town, where narrow cobblestone streets wind upward into the hills, disappearing into pockets of mist that glow faintly pink and gold in the pre-dawn light. The town is still sleeping. Only the occasional street lamp casts pools of warm amber light onto the wet cobblestones, creating gentle reflections that shimmer like memories. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint sound of water trickling from one of Sintra's many fountains, a sound that has echoed through these hills for centuries. As you begin your peaceful walk, you notice how different everything feels at this magical hour. The usual bustle of this popular destination has given way to profound tranquility. The souvenir shops are shuttered, their colorful awnings dark and still. The restaurants that will later fill with the sounds of clinking glasses and conversation now stand silent, their terraces empty except for chairs stacked neatly against the tables. You're breathing in air that feels almost enchanted. There's a sweetness to it, a combination of night-blooming jasmine, damp earth, and something indefinable that belongs only to Sintra. Perhaps it's the presence of the Atlantic Ocean, just 8 miles away. Or perhaps it's something older, something that has seeped into the very stones of this ancient place over countless centuries. Your footsteps echo softly on the cobblestones as you make your way deeper into the town. Each step takes you further from the modern world and deeper into Sintra's timeless embrace. The buildings around you are painted in soft pastels, faded yellows, dusty pinks, gentle blues, colors that seem to have been chosen specifically to complement the morning light. Above you, the hills rise dramatically, their peaks still hidden in clouds. You know that up there, among the mists, stand some of Europe's most romantic palaces and quintas. But for now, you're content to wander the lower streets, feeling the peaceful energy of a town that Lord Byron once called a glorious Eden. As the sky continues to lighten ever so gradually, you begin to see more details emerging from the darkness. Ornate tiles adorning building facades, wrought iron balconies draped with sleeping bougainvillea, ancient stone walls covered in soft moss and tiny ferns that thrive in Sintra's perpetual moisture. This is your Sintra, peaceful, mystical, untouched by the rush of daily life, a place where you can wander without purpose, following wherever your gentle curiosity leads. There's no schedule to keep, No sights you must see, just this soft, dreamlike exploration of one of Portugal's most magical destinations. As you continue your gentle exploration, the dawn light grows just a little stronger, revealing more of Sintra's enchanting character. You find yourself drawn toward the historic center, where the Palacio Nacional's distinctive conical chimneys rise like twin sentinels against the lightening sky. These massive white cones, each standing 33 meters tall, have been watching over Sintra since medieval times, their unique silhouettes becoming the very symbol of this mystical town. The palace itself is still sleeping, its windows dark, but even in this dim light, you can appreciate its blend of Gothic, Manueline, and Moorish architecture. The white walls seem to glow faintly in the pre-dawn atmosphere, as if they've absorbed centuries of moonlight and are now gently releasing it back into the world. You pause in the small square before the palace, listening to the absolute stillness. Somewhere high in the hills, a bird begins its morning song, a single, pure note that seems to float on the mist. Soon, another joins, then another, creating a gentle symphony that feels like nature's own lullaby. Moving slowly through the empty streets, you notice the unique way Sintra reveals itself. Unlike cities that display themselves openly, Sintra keeps its secrets, showing you only glimpses through archways, hints of gardens behind walls, suggestions of pathways disappearing into green shadows. Every corner you turn offers a new mystery, a new invitation to explore just a little further. The cobblestones beneath your feet are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Kings and queens have walked these same stones, as have poets, artists, and countless dreamers drawn to Sintra's romantic atmosphere. Your own footsteps now join this endless procession, becoming part of the town's continuing story. You pass by the old fountain of Fonte da Sabuga, where crystal-clear mountain water has flowed since the 13th century. The sound of water falling into the ancient basin is hypnotic, rhythmic, deeply calming. You pause here, watching the water catch the growing light, each drop seeming to carry its own tiny rainbow. The buildings around you tell stories through their architecture. Here, a Moorish-influenced arch speaks of the centuries when Islamic culture flourished in these hills. There, elaborate Manueline stonework recalls Portugal's age of discovery, and everywhere, the romantic touches added by 19th century aristocrats who fell in love with the Sintra's mystical atmosphere and built their dream homes among its forests. As you wander, you begin to understand why Sintra has captured imaginations for so long. It's not just the physical beauty, though that is undeniable. It's something more ethereal, something about the way the mist softens every edge, the way the Atlantic light filters through the trees, the way the mountains create their own microclimate where exotic plants from around the world can flourish. You find yourself on Rua das Padarias, the old baker's street, where traditional pastry shops have been creating Sintra's famous sweets for generations. Though the shops won't open for hours, you can almost smell the ghost of cinnamon and sugar in the air, the memory of countless travesseros and quejadas that have emerged from these ovens. The street leads you gently upward, each step taking you higher into the hills. The town below begins to spread out beneath you, a patchwork of terracotta roofs and white walls nestled in the green embrace of the Serra. The view is partially veiled by mist, making it seem more like a watercolor painting than reality. You notice how Sintra's architecture seems to grow from the landscape rather than being imposed upon it. Buildings follow the natural contours of the hills. Streets curve around ancient trees. And everywhere there's a sense of harmony between the human and natural worlds. This is not a town that conquered its environment, but one that learned to dance with it. As the morning light continues its gentle progression, illuminating more of Sintra's mystical landscape, you find yourself reflecting on the deep history that permeates every stone, every tree, every winding path in these enchanted hills. The story of Sintra stretches back through millennia, each era adding its own layer to the town's rich tapestry. The Moors called this place Sintra, and during their centuries of presence here, they recognized something special about these hills. The constant mists, the natural springs, the protective mountains, all combined to create what they saw as an earthly paradise. They built the first fortifications on the high peaks, establishing the Castelo dos Moros that still watches over the town like a stone dragon sleeping on the mountaintop. You can imagine those early inhabitants walking these same paths in the cool morning air, perhaps feeling the same sense of peace that now settles over you. They cultivated gardens, channeled the mountain springs into fountains, and created a sophisticated water system that still functions today. Their influence lingers in the geometric patterns of garden walls, in the orange and lemon trees that perfume the air, in the very name, Sintra itself. When the Christian reconquest came in 1147, King Afonso Henriques took these hills, but rather than destroying what he found, he and his successors built upon it. The Portuguese royalty fell in love with Sintra, just as the Moors had. They expanded the palace, added churches, created hunting grounds in the vast forests. For centuries, Sintra became the summer retreat of Portuguese kings and queens, who fled Lisbon's heat for these cool, misty hills. The palace you passed earlier, the Palacio Nacional, became the stage for countless royal dramas, played out in whispers and shadows. João planned Portugal's expansion into Africa within those walls. Manuel, I received news of Vasco da Gama's discovery of the sea route to India while staying here. The Swan Room, the Magpie Room, the Coat of Arms Room. Each space holds centuries of stories, political intrigues, softened now by time into mere romantic tales. But Sintra's true transformation came in the 19th century, during the Romantic period, when artists and aristocrats rediscovered these mystical hills. King Ferdinand II, a German prince who married into Portuguese royalty, became Sintra's great romantic patron. He looked at these misty forests and ancient ruins and saw, not decay, but possibility. He envisioned fairytale palaces rising from the clouds, exotic gardens where plants from every corner of the Portuguese Empire could grow together. The Pena Palace, which you'll glimpse later as the mist clears, stands as Ferdinand's greatest creation, a fantastic confection of towers and terraces painted in yellows and reds, combining Gothic, Renaissance, Moorish, and Manueline elements in a joyful architectural symphony. It was Ferdinand who understood that Sintra's magic lay not in imposing order but in embracing the mystical, the unexpected, the dreamlike. Following Ferdinand's example, wealthy merchants and returning colonials built their own romantic retreats in these hills. The Quinta da Regalera, with its initiatic wells and mysterious grottos. The Monserrate Palace, with its Islamic-influenced architecture and botanical gardens. Each estate added to Sintra's atmosphere of cultivated wildness, of nature and culture intertwined. These 19th century romantics also brought the world to Sintra. In the gardens they created, Japanese camellias grow beside Brazilian passion flowers. Australian eucalyptus towers over English roses. New Zealand tree ferns spread their ancient fronds in the shade of North American sequoias. Sintra became a botanical ark, preserving species from across the globe in its unique microclimate. Writers and poets were drawn here like moths to flame. Lord Byron wrote of Sintra's variegated maze of mount and glen. Hans Christian Andersen called it one of the most beautiful places he had ever seen. Portuguese writers like Asa de Queiroz set their novels in these mysterious hills, using Sintra's foggy atmosphere as the perfect backdrop for tales of love and longing. Even in the 20th century, as Portugal experienced revolution and change, Sintra remained a place apart, a refuge from the modern world's harsh edges. The town's classification as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1995 recognized not just its palaces and gardens, but the entire cultural landscape, the way human creativity and natural beauty have merged here over centuries. As you continue your peaceful walk through the awakening town, you're not just moving through space, but through time. Every arch you pass under, every fountain you pause beside, every garden wall you trail your fingers along, connects you to this continuous story. The mist that dampens your skin is the same mist that refreshed Moorish princes, Portuguese kings, romantic poets. You're part of Sintra's story now, another peaceful wanderer drawn to these mystical hills. The light continues to grow stronger, though still gentle and diffused through the persistent mist, revealing more of Sintra's extraordinary blend of architecture and nature. As you wander deeper into the town's heart, you begin to notice how buildings here seem to have grown from the very rocks, how human creation and natural beauty merge in ways that feel almost magical. You find yourself approaching the base of the Serra, where massive granite boulders, worn smooth by millennia of Atlantic winds and rains, create natural sculptures that dwarf the human structures built around them. Some of these boulders are the size of houses, their surfaces covered in soft green moss and tiny ferns that thrive in the constant moisture. The early inhabitants of Sintra built their homes between and around these giants, using the natural rock as walls, foundations, even roofs. The architecture here respects these ancient stones. Staircases curve around boulders rather than cutting through them. Garden walls incorporate natural rock faces into their design. Even the grandest palaces seem to bow to the authority of the mountain's geology. This creates an organic flow to the town's layout, where nothing feels forced or imposed. As you climb higher, following one of the many footpaths that wind through the town, you notice the incredible variety of architectural styles. Each era's contribution creating layers like geological strata. A medieval wall gives way to a Renaissance portal, which opens onto a Romantic era garden, which contains a Moorish-inspired fountain. Yet somehow, perhaps because of the unifying effect of the mist and the green growth that covers everything, it all feels harmonious. The vegetation itself is architectural here. Ancient cork oaks spread their twisted branches in dramatic gestures against the sky. Their bark, harvested carefully every 9 years without harming the trees, has a deeply textured surface that looks like abstract art. Some of these trees are hundreds of years old, their trunks so massive it would take several people holding hands to encircle them. Between the cork oaks grow strawberry trees, their smooth red bark peeling away in delicate scrolls, revealing fresh green beneath. In autumn, These trees perform a small miracle, bearing flowers and fruit simultaneously. White bell-shaped blooms alongside red and orange berries that give the tree its name. But even now, in the gentle dawn light, their evergreen leaves provide a constant backdrop of life. You pause beside one of Sintra's many quintas, these estate houses that dot the hillsides. This one has a particularly beautiful example of azulejo tile work adorning its entrance. The blue and white tiles tell stories, perhaps scenes from Portuguese history, or religious tales, or simply decorative patterns that seem to flow like water across the wall. The morning dew has settled on the glazed surface, making the tiles gleam like precious stones. The garden walls throughout Sintra deserved their own contemplation. Built from local granite, they're often topped with a unique local feature, a row of glazed ceramic pieces that prevent climbing while adding a decorative element. These walls are living things covered in moss, lichens, small ferns, and occasionally erupting with cascades of jasmine or bougainvillea. They create intimate spaces, secret gardens, hidden pathways that make every walk through Sintra feel like an exploration. Water features appear everywhere, a testament to the abundance of natural springs in these hills. You encounter another fountain, this one more elaborate, with carved dolphins and sea creatures spouting water into scalloped basins. The sound of water is constant here, trickling, splashing, gurgling, creating a natural soundtrack that soothes and calms. The fountains aren't just decorative, they're part of an ancient system that has provided fresh mountain water to the town for centuries. The morning light, growing stronger now, begins to reveal the extraordinary diversity of plant life that thrives in Sintra's unique microclimate. The Atlantic influence creates conditions found nowhere else in continental Portugal. Tree ferns from the age of dinosaurs spread their fronds in shadowy glens. Himalayan rhododendrons prepare to bloom in impossible profusion. Camellias from Japan grow to tree size, their glossy leaves catching every drop of dew. You notice how the architecture adapts to this botanical abundance. Pergolas support ancient wisteria vines, whose twisted trunks are works of art in themselves. Terraces are built around significant trees rather than removing them. Windows and balconies are positioned to frame particularly beautiful views of the natural landscape. There's a constant dialogue between the built and the natural environment. The path you're following now leads through a tunnel of vegetation where the tree branches meet overhead, creating a green cathedral. The light filters through leaves in constantly shifting patterns. The air here is notably cooler, filled with the scent of damp earth and growing things. Your footsteps are muffled by a carpet of fallen leaves that releases the fragrance of eucalyptus with each step. This integration of architecture and nature reaches its peak in Sintra's approach to gardens. These aren't formal French gardens with nature constrained into geometric patterns. Instead, they're romantic landscapes where the hand of the gardener is almost invisible, where cultivation mimics wildness, where every turn reveals what seems like a natural wonder, but is actually the result of careful, thoughtful design. As the morning continues its gentle progression, you find yourself drawn into the cultural heart of Sintra, where centuries of traditions continue to shape daily life. The town is beginning to stir now, though still quietly, peacefully. You catch glimpses of locals starting their day, a shopkeeper raising a metal shutter with a soft rattle, a baker arriving early to begin the day's work, an elderly woman in black making her way slowly to morning mass. The people of Sintra have a special relationship with their mystical town. They are custodians of something precious, and they know it. There's a quiet pride in the way they maintain their traditions, in the way they speak of their town's history, in the way they preserve the old ways while adapting to modern times. You pass by one of the traditional pastelerias, where the sweet aroma of baking finally confirms what your nose suspected. Inside, though you can only glimpse through the steamy window, bakers are creating Sintra's famous travesseros, pillows of puff pastry filled with almond and egg cream, a recipe that has remained unchanged for over a century. These pastries, along with the quietest, small cheese tarts with a history dating back to the 13th century, are more than just sweets. They're edible history, connections to the past that you can taste. The recipe for quietest de Sintra is said to have originated in the convents, where nuns created sweets using eggs, sugar, and fresh cheese. During the medieval period, these convents were given large quantities of egg whites for starching their habits, leaving them with the surplus egg yolks that they transformed into heavenly desserts. This tradition of convent sweets spread throughout Portugal, but Sintra's versions remain unique, their recipes closely guarded secrets passed down through generations. As you continue walking, you notice the particular way Sintra's residents have adapted to their misty environment. Doorways often have stone lips to prevent water from entering. Roofs extend far beyond walls to protect windows from the frequent drizzle. Gardens include covered walkways where one can enjoy the outdoors even in the mist. These architectural adaptations have become so integral to Sintra's character that they're now part of its charm. The relationship between Sintra and the creative arts continues to this day. The town hosts artists' residencies, writers' retreats, musicians seeking inspiration in the mystical atmosphere. You might glimpse an easel set up in a quiet corner, an artist trying to capture the ethereal quality of the morning light. Or hear, drifting from an open window, someone practicing piano, the notes floating on the mist like audible dreams. Local festivals maintain connections to ancient traditions. The Festa de São Pedro, celebrated in June, fills the streets with music, dancing, and the aroma of grilled sardines. But even these celebrations have a gentler quality in Sintra, as if the town's mystical atmosphere softens everything it touches. The festivals feel more like community gatherings than tourist spectacles, maintaining an authenticity that's increasingly rare. The tradition of botanical collection and cultivation, started by the romantic gardeners of the 19th century, continues today. Local gardeners are encyclopedias of plant knowledge, able to identify species from around the world, understanding the specific microclimates where Australian eucalyptus will thrive or where Chinese magnolias will bloom best. They maintain the delicate balance of these international gardens, preserving botanical treasures for future generations. You notice how the Portuguese tradition of azulejos, decorative tiles, takes on special significance in Sintra. The constant moisture that might damage other decorations actually enhances the beauty of these glazed ceramics. Over centuries, they've developed a patina, a softness that makes even new installations look ancient. Local artisans still practice this craft, creating new tiles using traditional methods, keeping the art form alive and evolving. The cafe culture here has its own rhythm, different from the bustle of Lisbon. People linger longer over their morning coffee, Perhaps because the mist encourages a slower pace. Perhaps because the beauty of the surroundings demands contemplation. Conversations are quieter, more philosophical. There's time here for the Portuguese tradition of conversa fiada, literally spun conversation, the art of talking about everything and nothing, of letting words flow like the mist that surrounds the town. The tradition of storytelling remains strong in Sintra. Every palace has its ghost stories, every garden its legends. The Quinta da Regalera is said to have been designed according to Masonic and Knights Templar symbolism. The Pina Palace supposedly has a secret room that has never been found. These stories, whether true or embellished by time, add layers of mystery to the physical beauty. Local artisans continue traditional crafts that have been practiced here for centuries. Stonemasons who understand how to work with the local granite. Woodworkers who know which trees from the Sintra forest make the best furniture. Gardeners who propagate rare species, maintaining genetic diversity in the botanical collections. These skills are passed down through apprenticeships, ensuring that the knowledge doesn't disappear. Even the way locals give directions reflects Sintra's special character. Instead of street names and numbers, they use landmarks from nature and history. Turn left at the big cork oak. Continue until you reach the fountain with the dolphins. It's just past where the old wall has collapsed. These directions assume a familiarity with the landscape, an intimate knowledge that comes from generations of living among these mystical hills. The dawn continues its slow transformation of Sintra, and you become aware of how this particular time of day, this specific moment in the morning, creates its own unique atmosphere. The light now has gained enough strength to begin burning through the thicker patches of mist, creating moments of clarity followed by returns to soft obscurity. It's like watching the town reveal itself in gentle pulses, each revelation followed by a return to mystery. This early morning hour in Sintra is perhaps the most magical time to experience the town. Later, when the sun climbs higher and the tour buses arrive from Lisbon, the streets will fill with voices and footsteps. But now, in these precious moments of dawn, you share the town only with the birds and the mist, the ancient stones and the dreaming gardens. The Atlantic influence is particularly strong at this hour. The ocean, though not visible from here, makes its presence felt in the quality of the air, in the way the mist moves, in the particular softness of the light. Sintra exists in a constant dialogue with the Atlantic, receiving its moisture, its breezes, its ever-changing weather patterns. This creates a climate unlike anywhere else in Portugal, a perpetual spring where something is always blooming, always growing. You've arrived during a particularly beautiful season, when the gardens are in one of their many peaks of glory. The camellias are beginning their show, some varieties already displaying their perfect blooms, while others hold their buds in reserve for later in the season. These Asian beauties have found in Sintra a home away from home, growing to sizes they rarely achieve even in their native lands. Some of the specimens here are over 100 years old, their trunks thick as trees, their crowns spreading wide to create rooms of green shade. The morning reveals different layers of the landscape as the light changes. First, only the nearest objects are visible. The cobblestones at your feet, the wall beside you, perhaps a tree emerging from the mist, like a figure from a dream. Then, as the light strengthens, the middle distance appears. Buildings, gardens, the rising hillsides. Finally, In moments when the mist parts completely, you catch glimpses of the far distance, the castles on the peaks, the ocean horizon, the vast sweep of the Portuguese countryside. This temporal quality of Sintra, the way it changes moment by moment, is part of its enchantment. A garden that seems mysterious and enclosed in the morning mist becomes open and inviting in afternoon sun. A palace that looms dramatically through fog appears almost playful when seen clearly. The town has as many moods as the Atlantic weather that shapes it. The bird life responds to the advancing morning with increasing enthusiasm. The dawn chorus, which began with a single tentative song, has now become a symphony. Blackbirds call from the undergrowth, their liquid notes like drops of sound. Robins claim territory from prominent perches. High overhead, you might hear the mewing call of buzzards riding the thermals that are beginning to form as the sun warms the hillsides. The gardens themselves seem to wake up as you watch. Flowers that close at night begin to open their petals. Leaves that were folded for sleep spread to catch the growing light. The morning dew, which has covered everything in tiny diamonds, begins to evaporate, releasing the scents of 1,000 different plants into the warming air. Each garden, each grove, each planted terrace has its own perfume signature. You notice how Sintra's microclimate creates conditions for an extraordinary diversity of seasonal displays. While the camellias bloom in late winter and early spring, the rhododendrons will follow in late spring, then the hydrangeas of summer, the subtle colors of autumn foliage from the deciduous trees, and throughout it all, the constant green of the native Mediterranean vegetation and the exotic evergreens. The mist itself is seasonal, though present to some degree year-round. In summer, it provides cooling relief from the heat that bakes the rest of Portugal. In winter, it acts as a blanket, protecting tender plants from frost. The locals have names for different types of mist. The thick morning fog that fills the valleys, the gentle drizzle called mola tolos, fool weather, that catches the unprepared, the dramatic clouds that pour over the mountain peaks, like slow-motion waterfalls. This morning's mist is particularly beautiful, what the locals might call nevoeiro místico, mystical fog. It's not the thick, impenetrable fog of deep winter, nor the barely there haze of summer, but something in between. It moves constantly, revealing and concealing, creating an ever-changing landscape that never quite lets you see everything at once. The progression of morning in Sintra follows ancient rhythms. The church bells will soon ring the early hours, their bronze voices carrying across the hills. The first trains from Lisbon will arrive at the romantic 19th century station. Shops will open their doors, cafes will set out their tables, and the town will gradually shift from its private, dreaming state to its public, welcoming one. But these transitions happen gently in Sintra. There's no harsh awakening, no sudden shift from quiet to noise. Instead, the town wakes like someone emerging from a particularly pleasant dream, slowly, reluctantly, carrying something of the dream into the waking day. The light continues to evolve, and you notice how it interacts differently with various surfaces. The azulejo tiles begin to glow with their own inner light. The white walls of the palaces become canvases for subtle color shifts. Pink, gold, palest blue. The wet cobblestones create mirrors for the sky. Every surface becomes part of the morning's artistic display as your peaceful wandering continues through Sintra's awakening streets. you find yourself drawn away from the main thoroughfares into the quieter corners, where the true spirit of the town reveals itself. These hidden places, overlooked by hurried visitors, hold some of Sintra's most precious secrets. You discover a narrow alleyway, barely wide enough for two people to pass, that winds between ancient walls, topped with that distinctive ceramic edging. The walls are so old that they've become gardens themselves, with ferns growing from every crack, moss painting abstract patterns on the stone, and occasionally a cascade of jasmine or morning glory spilling over the top in fragrant waterfalls. The alley leads to a small plaza you hadn't noticed before, centered around an ancient fountain whose origins are lost in time. The fountain is simple, unadorned except by age, just a stone basin collecting water from a bronze spout, worn smooth by centuries of flow. But the sound it makes, that constant gentle splashing, creates a bubble of tranquility that seems to exist outside of time. Beside the fountain, a stone bench invites contemplation. You can imagine generations of Sintra's residents pausing here, perhaps workers taking a moment's rest, lovers meeting in secret, elderly residents sharing the gossip of the day. The bench is worn smooth in the center, polished by countless sitters, each adding their small contribution to its patina. From this hidden plaza, you notice a garden gate left slightly ajar. Through the gap, you glimpse what appears to be a forgotten garden, perhaps belonging to one of the smaller quintas that dot the hillsides. Unable to resist, you peer inside. The garden is overgrown, but not abandoned, maintaining that perfect balance between wildness and cultivation that Sintra does so well. Ancient camellia trees form a canopy overhead, their dark, glossy leaves creating a green ceiling. Beneath them, shade-loving plants have created their own ecosystem. Ferns of dozen different varieties, hostas with leaves like green hearts, patches of soft moss that look like green velvet cushions. A path of irregular stepping stones, each one slightly sunken into the earth, leads deeper into the green shadows. You continue your exploration, finding more of these secret spaces, a viewpoint known only to locals, where a gap in the trees frames a perfect view of the Moorish castle on its distant peak. The castle appears to float on a sea of mist, its ancient walls catching the morning sun, while the valleys below remain in shadow. It's a view that postcards can't capture, that photographs can't quite convey. It needs to be experienced in this moment, in this light, in this silence. Another turn brings you to what was once a washing place, where mountain water flows through a series of stone basins. The basins are no longer used for laundry, but the water still flows, clear and cold, making music as it tumbles from level to level. Maidenhair ferns grow in the spray, their delicate fronds trembling in the breeze created by the falling water. You discover a small chapel, so modest it's almost invisible, built into a cliff face. Its door is closed, but through the iron grille you can see the simple interior. A few wooden pews, an altar with fresh flowers, candles that suggest someone still tends this tiny sanctuary. The chapel predates the grand palaces, a remnant of medieval Sintra, when faith was expressed in these intimate spaces rather than grand gestures. Near the chapel, a cork oak of enormous age spreads its branches, creating a natural sanctuary. Its trunk is so vast and gnarled that it has formed seats and shelters in its curves. The bark, recently harvested, shows the rich red-brown of the exposed cork, a color that will darken and weather over the coming years. until the next harvest. This tree has been providing cork for perhaps 3 centuries, a living link to Portugal's past. You find a series of terraced gardens, each level connected by worn stone steps. These terraces follow the natural contours of the hillside, creating a series of outdoor rooms. In one, roses climb over a pergola so old that the wood and the vine have become one structure. In another, a collection of succulents from around the world creates a tapestry of shapes and textures. Each terrace has its own microclimate, its own character, its own secret beauty. A path marked only by worn earth between the grass leads to a natural spring where water emerges from the living rock. Someone has placed a cup on a chain here, an invitation to taste the pure mountain water. The water is cold, with a mineral taste that speaks of its journey through the granite heart of the mountain. Local legend says this spring has healing properties, though perhaps the healing comes simply from the peace of this hidden spot. You discover an old greenhouse, its iron frame delicate as lace, many of its glass panes cracked or missing. But inside, protected from the worst of the weather, tropical plants still thrive. Orchids cling to remnants of bark. Bromeliads catch water in their leaf cups. A passion vine has escaped through a broken pane to bloom impossibly purple against the morning sky. It's like finding a secret jungle in the heart of Portugal. These hidden corners of Sintra remind you that the town's magic isn't confined to its famous palaces and gardens. It permeates every corner, every forgotten space, every neglected garden. The same forces that created the grand romantic gestures, the mist, the microclimate, the marriage of nature and culture, work their magic in these humble spaces too, as the morning light continues to strengthen, painting Sintra's mystical landscape in ever softer shades of gold and green. You find yourself drawn into the web of stories that envelop this place like the mist itself. Every corner of Sintra has its legends, its whispered tales, its peaceful mysteries that add depth to the physical beauty. There's an old story about the Fonte da Sabuga, that ancient fountain you passed earlier. They say that in medieval times, a Moorish princess fell in love with a Christian knight. Their love was forbidden, impossible, but they would meet in secret by this fountain in the pre-dawn hours, just like now, when the mist provided cover for their whispered conversations. When their love was discovered, rather than be separated, they threw themselves into the spring that feeds the fountain. Legend says that on misty mornings, you can still hear their voices in the water's song. Not sad, but peaceful, united forever in the eternal flow. The locals tell these stories not as history, but as truth of a different kind. Emotional truth that captures something essential about Sintra's romantic spirit. The stories change with each telling, like the mist that constantly reshapes the landscape, but their essence remains constant. Love, mystery, the intersection of different worlds. You think of King Ferdinand II, who perhaps understood these stories best. When he built the Pina Palace, he wasn't trying to create historical accuracy, but emotional truth. He mixed architectural styles from different centuries and cultures, because that's what Sintra itself does. It exists outside of normal time, in a space where past and present merge like mist and light. There's a peaceful legend about the cork oaks that cover these hills. They say that each tree contains the spirit of someone who loved Sintra so much they chose to stay forever, transformed into these patient giants that provide shade, beauty, and useful bark to future generations. When the wind moves through their branches, it's the voices of these ancient lovers of Sintra, welcoming new visitors, sharing their eternal peace. The Quinta da Regalera, which you might glimpse through the trees, has its own collection of mysteries. Built at the turn of the 20th century by a wealthy Brazilian merchant who was fascinated by alchemy, masonry, and the Knights Templar, the estate is full of symbolic architecture. The initiation, well, a spiral staircase that descends deep into the earth, is said to represent a journey into the self, into the depths of consciousness. Those who descend in the right frame of mind emerge transformed, more at peace with themselves and the world. But even this mystical architecture has its gentler stories. The gardens of Regalera are home to a family of peacocks whose ancestors were brought here over a century ago. Local legend says that when a peacock calls at dawn, that haunting, almost prehistoric sound, it's announcing that the day will bring unexpected beauty, a small miracle hidden in an ordinary moment. You hear about the Palace of Setier, now a luxury hotel, where a treaty was signed that humiliated Portugal. But rather than dwelling on this painful history, local stories have transformed it. They say the palace's name, which means 7 sighs, comes from the 7 sighs of happiness uttered by a bride on her wedding night in the palace's most beautiful room. The painful history has been overwritten by romance, transformed by time and telling into something softer. The Moorish castle has its share of ghost stories, but they're peculiarly peaceful ghosts. The spirit of a Moorish sentinel who still keeps watch, ensuring the safety of all who visit. The ghost of a Christian knight who fell in love with the view and chose to remain forever. These aren't frightening spirits, but guardian presences, part of Sintra's welcoming atmosphere. There's a story about the camellias that grow so magnificently here. A Portuguese merchant returning from Japan in the 19th century brought camellia seeds as a gift for his beloved, but she had died while he was away. In his grief, he planted the seeds around Sintra, and each one that grew represented a happy memory of their time together. Now, centuries later, when the camellias bloom, they're celebrating not loss, but love remembered. The morning mist itself has countless legends attached to it. Some say it's the breath of dragons that sleep in caves deep beneath the mountains. Others claim it's the visible form of dreams rising from the town as people wake. The most poetic legend suggests that the mist is actually time itself, made visible in Sintra, which is why the town seems to exist in multiple eras simultaneously. Local storytellers, often elderly residents who've lived here all their lives, will tell you about the Sintra moon. Those nights when the full moon combines with the mist to create an ethereal glow that transforms the entire landscape into something from a fairy tale. They say that wishes made under the Sintra moon have a special power, not to change the world, but to change the wisher, to bring inner peace and acceptance. Even the tiles, the azulejos that decorate so many buildings, have their stories. Each pattern is said to contain a message, a story told in abstract symbols that only true lovers of Sintra can read. The blue represents the Atlantic, the white, the mist, and the patterns trace the journey of everyone who has ever fallen under Sintra's spell. These stories, whether ancient or recent, true or embellished, create an invisible architecture that's as real as the stone palaces and gardens. They transform Sintra from a beautiful place into a meaningful one, a landscape not just of physical beauty, but of emotional resonance. Walking through these streets, you're walking through stories, each step taking you deeper into the dream that is Sintra. As your journey through Sintra's mystical morning continues, you find yourself naturally drawn toward the quieter, more restful spaces that the town offers in abundance. The energy of exploration begins to soften into something more contemplative, more peaceful. Your steps slow, your breathing deepens, and you become aware of a gentle tiredness, pleasant and welcome, settling over you like the mist itself. You discover a series of garden benches, each one perfectly placed to offer a different view, a different experience of rest. One faces a wall of climbing roses, their blooms not yet open, but their leaves jeweled with dew. Another looks out over the valley, where the mist is beginning to lift in places, revealing glimpses of the countryside beyond. Each bench invites you to pause, to sit, to simply be present in this magical place. The gardens of Sintra are designed with rest in mind, not the static rest of formal gardens, where you observe from outside, but integrated rest, where you become part of the garden itself. There are grass lawns that invite you to remove your shoes and feel the cool, damp earth beneath your feet. There are shade trees with low-hanging branches that create natural rooms where you can lean back against ancient trunks and watch the play of light through leaves. You find yourself in one of the park areas that surround the palaces, where the formal transitions to the wild. Here, paths become less defined, sometimes disappearing entirely into grass before reappearing further on. It's an invitation to wander without purpose, to follow your instincts rather than a predetermined route. The paths that do exist are soft underfoot, covered in pine needles and fallen leaves that muffle your footsteps. A grove of eucalyptus trees creates a particularly peaceful sanctuary. These Australian giants have grown to enormous size in Sintra's climate, their smooth, pale trunks rising like columns in a natural cathedral. The ground beneath them is clear of undergrowth, carpeted only with their aromatic leaves. The scent of eucalyptus fills the air, clean and medicinal, clearing your mind of any remaining tension. You discover what appears to be an old meditation garden, though it may simply be a forgotten corner that has naturally evolved into a space of contemplation. Moss-covered stones are arranged in a rough circle, whether by ancient design or natural occurrence, you cannot tell. In the center, a single tree fern spreads its prehistoric fronds, a living fossil that has witnessed millions of years of mornings, just like this one. The sound landscape here is particularly soothing. The distant sound of water, always water in Sintra, provides a constant, peaceful backdrop. Birds call but softly, their morning excitement giving way to the contentment of a day well begun. The wind in the trees creates a gentle susurration, like the earth itself breathing slowly, deeply, peacefully. You notice how the quality of light has changed as the morning has progressed. The dramatic interplay of mist and sun has given way to something softer, more diffused. The light now seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, eliminating harsh shadows, making everything appear to glow gently from within. It's the kind of light that makes you want to close your eyes, not from brightness, but from a desire to hold on to the feeling it creates. A small grove of orange trees offers another form of rest. The trees are old, their trunks gnarled and twisted into comfortable seats. The scent of orange blossoms, though the main blooming season has passed, still lingers faintly in the air. A few late oranges hang from the branches, their bright color the only vivid note in this symphony of soft greens and grays. You find yourself following a stream, one of the many that flow down from the mountains through Sintra. The path alongside it is barely a path at all, just a slight depression in the grass where others have walked before. The stream makes different sounds as it flows, gurgling over rocks, whispering through narrow channels, occasionally pausing in still pools that reflect the overhanging ferns. There's a quality to these restful spaces that goes beyond physical comfort. They seem to offer rest for the mind, for the spirit. The constant gentle stimulation of natural beauty, never overwhelming, always changing, creates a state similar to meditation. Thoughts slow down, worries fade, and you find yourself simply present, aware of your breath, aware of your heartbeat, aware of being alive in this beautiful moment. You discover a walled garden where time seems to have stopped entirely. The walls are covered in climbing plants, so old they've become woody, structural. Inside, fruit trees espaliered against the warm stone have been trained over decades into living sculptures. A simple wooden bench, weathered to silver gray, offers a place to rest while contemplating this marriage of human patience and natural growth. The morning is advancing toward midday now, though you've lost track of specific time. It doesn't matter. In Sintra, especially in these restful spaces, clock time becomes irrelevant. There's only the natural rhythm of the day, the slow progression of light, the gradual warming of the air, the gentle evolution of the morning into something else, something equally beautiful. You realize that these rest areas aren't separate from Sintra's beauty, but an essential part of it. The town understands that beauty must be absorbed slowly, contemplatively. These spaces for rest aren't interruptions in your exploration, but deepenings of it, chances to let what you've seen and felt settle into your consciousness like sediment in still water, becoming part of you. And now, dear peaceful wanderer, as our journey through Sintra's mystical morning draws toward its gentle close, you find yourself in one of the town's most tranquil gardens, a place where the boundary between waking and sleeping, between reality and dream, becomes beautifully blurred. The morning has fully arrived now, but it maintains that soft, dreamlike quality that makes Sintra so special. You are resting on a bench beneath an ancient oak tree, its branches spreading wide above you like protective arms. The filtered light creates patterns on your closed eyelids, gentle geometries that shift and change with each breath of wind. The air is perfect, neither warm nor cool, just present, soft against your skin like the finest silk. All around you, the garden continues its quiet life. Bees hum drowsily among the flowers, their sound blending with the distant murmur of water until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Leaves rustle softly overhead, a sound like the gentle rain, though the sky is clear. Somewhere, a bird sings 3 notes, pauses, sings them again, creating a lullaby that seems designed specifically for this moment. The mist has mostly lifted now, but wisps of it still cling to the hollows and shadows, reluctant to leave completely. These remnants of morning fog drift past occasionally, cool fingers that brush your face and move on, leaving behind that distinctive Sintra freshness, that sense of being cleansed, renewed, restored. You've walked through centuries this morning, through stories and legends, through gardens both wild and cultivated, through the dreams of kings and poets and all the peaceful wanderers who came before you. And now all of those experiences are settling into your consciousness, like seeds into fertile soil, ready to bloom into dreams of your own. The cobblestones beneath your feet have become soft as pillows. The ancient walls you lean against feel warm and supportive as embracing arms. Even the air itself seems to hold you, to carry you, to invite you to let go, to rest, to drift into the peaceful sleep that Sintra has been preparing for you since you first arrived. Think of the fountains you've encountered, their constant flow, their eternal music. Let that sound wash through your mind now, clearing away any remaining thoughts, any lingering tensions. The water has been flowing for centuries and will flow for centuries more. There's no rush, no urgency, just this eternal present moment of peace. Remember the gardens you've wandered through, each one a different dream of paradise. Let those images float through your consciousness now. The dark, glossy leaves of camellias, the soft fronds of tree ferns, the twisted beauty of ancient cork oaks. Each image is a stepping stone leading you deeper into tranquility, deeper into rest. The palaces on their misty peaks are settling into afternoon quiet now. Their towers and turrets, which seemed so dramatic in the dawn light, now appear soft, almost translucent, like structures made of dreams rather than stone. They're watching over you, these fairytale sentinels, ensuring your rest is undisturbed, your dreams are peaceful. Feel the history of this place surrounding you like a warm blanket. All those who have loved Sintra, from Moorish princes to romantic poets, seem present in the air itself, welcoming you into their eternal community of dreamers. You're part of Sintra's story now, another peaceful soul who has found rest in these mystical hills. The fragrance of the gardens, jasmine, rose, eucalyptus, orange blossom, creates an invisible cushion around you. Each breath brings a different subtle scent, a different note in this olfactory lullaby. Breathe deeply and let these ancient perfumes carry you wherever they will. The stones themselves seem to pulse with stored warmth, centuries of sun captured and held, now released slowly, gently, just for you. Every surface you touch, bark, leaf, stone, earth, offers its own unique texture, its own invitation to let go, to trust, to rest. You're drifting now, floating on the edge of sleep, carried by the gentle rhythms of Sintra. The town continues its quiet life around you, but you're separate from it, held in your own bubble of perfect peace. Time has stopped, or perhaps it never existed here in the first place. There's only this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. Let the mist take you now, that soft Sintra mist that transforms everything it touches. You're becoming part of it, dissolving gently into the atmosphere of this magical place. Your boundaries are softening, expanding, until you're not sure where you end and Sintra begins. The Portuguese have a word, saudade, a deep emotional state of nostalgic longing for something or someone that one loves. But here in Sintra, in this moment, there's no longing, because everything you could ever want is present. Peace is present. Beauty is present. Rest is present. Sleep now, peaceful wanderer. Let Sintra hold you in its mystical embrace. The ancient stones will watch over you. The gardens will breathe around you. The mist will blanket you in its soft coolness. And when you wake, if you wake, you'll carry something of Sintra's magic with you, a seed of peace planted deep in your heart. Rest now. dream now. Let go now. Sintra is here. Sintra has always been here. Sintra will always be here. Peaceful, mystical, eternal, waiting for you whenever you need to return, whenever you need to remember, whenever you need to rest. The morning's journey is complete, but the dream continues, forever and always in the mystical hills of Sintra, where mist and magic merge, where time stands still, where peace is not just possible, but inevitable. Rest now. Rest. Welcome, peaceful wanderer, to another gentle journey with the sleeping wanderer. Tonight, we're traveling together to the enchanting medieval town of Albarracin, nestled in the hills of Aragon, Spain, where time moves slowly and every breath brings deeper calm. This hidden gem, often called Spain's most beautiful pueblo, waits for us with its rose-colored stones, glowing softly in the evening light. There's no rush, no agenda, just a peaceful exploration through narrow passages and ancient walls that will carry you gently toward rest. Before we begin our restful adventure together, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy these sleepy travels. And drop a comment below telling me which magical destination you want us to visit next. As we approach Albarracin this gentle evening, the sun is beginning its slow descent behind the Sierra de Albarracin mountains. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the faint scent of wild thyme and rosemary from the surrounding hillsides. This remarkable town, perched impossibly on a rocky outcrop above the Guadalajara River, seems to glow with an inner warmth. Its distinctive pink and terracotta stones, unique to this region, catch the soft evening light and transform the entire settlement into something from a peaceful dream. You're walking now along the quiet approach road, your footsteps soft on the ancient path that countless travelers have taken before you. The town rises ahead like a vision from another time, its medieval walls following the natural contours of the cliff face. Everything here moves at a different pace, slower, gentler, more in harmony with the natural rhythms of day and night. The pink stones of Albarracin are not just beautiful, they tell a story millions of years in the making. These rose-colored rocks, formed from iron-rich sandstone and gypsum, were shaped by ancient seas and desert winds long before humans ever walked these hills. Now they form the very bones of this peaceful town, each stone worn smooth by centuries of gentle touches, rain, and time. As you draw closer, you can see how the buildings seem to grow organically from the cliff itself. There's no harsh line between nature and architecture here. Everything flows together in soft curves and gentle angles. The medieval builders understood something profound about working with the landscape rather than against it. They let the rock guide their construction, creating a town that feels as natural as the mountains surrounding it. The evening light is particularly magical at this hour. The Spanish call it La Hora Dorada, the golden hour. But here in Albarracin, it's more like a rose gold hour. The pink stones absorb and reflect the warm light, creating a gentle glow that seems to emanate from within the walls themselves. Shadows are soft and purple, pooling in doorways and beneath ancient wooden balconies. You pause for a moment at the old bridge that crosses the Guadalajara River below the town. The water moves quietly here, just a gentle murmur over smooth stones. Swallows dart silently through the evening air, their wings catching the last rays of sunlight. Everything is settling into the peaceful rhythm of approaching night. The temperature is perfect for wandering, cool enough to be refreshing, warm enough to be comfortable. That particular Spanish evening warmth that wraps around you like a soft blanket. You breathe deeply, filling your lungs with the clean mountain air. There's something deeply calming about this place, something that invites you to slow down, to notice small details, to simply be present in this moment. As you begin your ascent toward the town gates, you notice how quiet everything is. Not an empty quiet, but a full, rich quiet. The kind that's made up of tiny, peaceful sounds, distant church bells, the soft cooing of doves settling for the night, the whisper of wind through narrow passages. These are the sounds that have echoed here for over 1,000 years. You're entering Albarracin now through the Portal de Molina, one of the ancient gateways that has welcomed visitors for centuries. The archway is low and intimate, built from those distinctive pink stones that seem to glow even in shadow. As you pass beneath it, your hand brushes against the worn stone, polished smooth by countless other hands over hundreds of years. The texture is surprisingly warm, as if the stone has been absorbing sunlight all day and is now gently releasing it back into the cooling evening. The first thing that strikes you is how narrow the streets are. Some passages are barely wide enough for 2 people to pass. These intimate alleyways were designed this way deliberately, creating shade during hot summer days and protection from winter winds. But now, in the gentle evening, they feel cozy and welcoming, like secret passages in a peaceful dream. The pink stone walls rise on either side of you, their color deepening and changing with each step you take. Sometimes they appear salmon pink, sometimes dusty rose, sometimes a warm terracotta. The variation comes from the different minerals in each stone, creating a natural palette that no artist could improve upon. Iron oxide gives the predominant pink hue, while traces of other minerals add subtle variations. Amber tones here, lavender shadows there. You're walking slowly upward now, following one of the main medieval streets. The cobblestones beneath your feet are worn into gentle curves, shaped by centuries of footsteps. Each stone fits perfectly with its neighbors, creating a pattern that's both random and harmonious. Your steps fall into a natural rhythm, unhurried and calm. The houses lean toward each other across the narrow street, their upper floors jutting out on wooden beams. This traditional construction, called voladizos, creates little tunnels of shade and shelter. The wood is ancient, darkened by time to a rich chocolate brown that contrasts beautifully with the pink stone. Some of the beams are carved with simple geometric patterns, the work of long-ago craftsmen who took pride in every detail. Windows are small and deep-set, designed to keep interiors cool in summer and warm in winter. Many still have their original wooden shutters, painted in soft blues and greens that have faded to gentle pastels. Through some open windows, you glimpse peaceful domestic scenes. A cat sleeping on a windowsill, lace curtains moving gently in the evening breeze, the warm glow of a lamp being lit for the evening. The street opens occasionally into tiny plazas, each one a perfect little world unto itself. In one, there's an ancient fountain, its water trickling softly into a worn stone basin. The sound is incredibly soothing, just a gentle, continuous whisper that seems to slow time itself. You pause here, listening to the water, feeling the cool mist on your skin. Doorways fascinate you as you pass. Each one is unique, telling its own story. Some have heavy wooden doors studded with iron nails in decorative patterns. Others feature delicate ironwork twisted into flowers and vines. Many doorways are crowned with family crests, carved in stone, now softened by time until they're barely more than suggestions of their former glory. The Moorish influence is subtle but everywhere, once you know how to look. It's in the horseshoe arches over certain doorways, in the geometric patterns carved into stone lintels, in the way water is channeled and celebrated throughout the town. The Muslims who once ruled here understood the importance of water in this dry landscape, and their engineering genius still functions today, bringing fresh mountain water to fountains and homes. As you climb higher, you begin to notice the cats. Albarracin's feline residents are everywhere, draped over warm stones, padding silently along walls, watching the evening settle in with half-closed eyes. They seem to embody the peaceful spirit of the place, unhurried, comfortable, perfectly at home in their ancient surroundings. The smells of evening are beginning to emerge. Someone is cooking dinner, and the scent of garlic and olive oil drifts through the air. There's wood smoke from a chimney, sweet and comforting. The wild herbs on the hillside release their fragrance as the day cools. Rosemary, thyme, and something uniquely Spanish that you can't quite identify. The history of Albarracin unfolds gently around you as you wander these ancient streets. This place has been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years, each era leaving its mark in stone and story. But there's nothing overwhelming about this history. It simply exists, layer upon layer, like sediment in a peaceful river. The town takes its name from the Berber family Ben Razin, who ruled here in the 11th century, when this was a small, independent Muslim kingdom called a taifa. The Razin family chose this spectacular defensive position, building upon even older Celtiberian and Roman foundations. They understood that the loop of the river and the steep cliffs created a natural fortress that needed only walls to complete. You're standing now in the Plaza Mayor, the heart of the medieval town. This space has witnessed so much history, yet it remains peaceful and unassuming. Market days, festivals, proclamations, all the rhythms of human life have played out here for centuries. The buildings surrounding the plaza lean at comfortable angles, their pink stones glowing softly in the evening light. The Christian conquest came in 1170, but it was remarkably peaceful by medieval standards. The town simply changed hands, and life continued much as before. Christians, Muslims, and Jews continued to live here together for centuries, their cultures blending and enriching each other. You can still see this mixing in the architecture. A Christian church with Moorish decorative elements, a Jewish merchant's house with Gothic windows. The Azagra family became the Christian lords of Albarracin, ruling it as an independent lordship for over a century. They were enlightened rulers who understood that prosperity came from peace. Under their protection, the town flourished as a center of wool production and trade. The pink stones you're walking past were once the walls of workshops where the finest wool in Aragon was processed. As you wander down a particularly narrow alley, you come upon the old Jewish quarter. The houses here are even more tightly packed, creating an intimate neighborhood within the larger town. The Jewish community was small but vital, contributing physicians, scholars, and merchants to Albarracin's prosperity. Their synagogue is long gone, but the street pattern remains. A maze within a maze. The Cathedral of El Salvador rises gently above the rooftops, its bell tower a soft presence rather than a dominating one. Built in the 16th century on the site of an earlier Romanesque church, it represents the town's golden age. This was when Albarracine's bishops wielded considerable power, and the wool trade brought wealth flowing through these narrow streets. But prosperity in Albarracin was always gentle prosperity. The town never grew too large, never lost its human scale. The pink stones could only be quarried so quickly, and the clifftop location naturally limited expansion. This restraint, whether intentional or imposed by geography, preserved the town's essential character. You pause by a section of the medieval walls, running your hand along the ancient stones. These fortifications were built and rebuilt many times, each generation adding their contribution. The base stones are massive, probably Roman or even earlier. Above them, smaller Moorish stones fit together with mathematical precision. Then Christian additions, using the same pink stone, but in a different pattern. The walls follow the natural contours of the cliff so perfectly that in places it's hard to tell where the natural rock ends and the human construction begins. This is defensive architecture that works with nature rather than against it. The builders understood that the strongest wall is one that becomes part of the landscape itself. Walking along the wall's pathway, you can see why this location was so prized. The views stretch endlessly across the Montes Universales, wave after wave of hills fading into the purple distance. The Guadalajara River curves below like a silver ribbon, its course marked by green vegetation in the otherwise dry landscape. This is a landscape that invites contemplation, not conquest. The evening light reveals textures in the stone that speak of deep time. Here, the marks of medieval chisels. There, a fossil embedded in the rock. A reminder that these hay were once beneath an ancient sea. The iron that gives the stones their pink color was deposited millions of years ago, when this land was very different. Small details catch your eye as you walk. A medieval mason's mark carved into a cornerstone. A worn inscription in Latin asking for divine protection. A Moorish geometric pattern hidden under centuries of weathering. Each one is a tiny window into the past, a reminder that real people lived here, worked here, loved here. The town's decline was as gentle as its rise. When the wool trade shifted elsewhere, Albarracin simply settled into a quieter rhythm. No dramatic collapse, no abandonment, just a slow transition to a more peaceful existence. The pink stones remained, the walls stood strong, and life continued at its own unhurried pace. The architecture of Albarracin reveals itself slowly as you explore, each turn bringing new wonders rendered in pink stone. You're climbing now toward the castle ruins, at the highest point of the town, following a stepped path worn smooth by centuries of use. The stones beneath your feet are the same rose-colored sandstone, each one carefully placed to create a stable climbing surface that has endured for generations. The houses you pass seem to defy gravity, built on impossibly steep slopes with foundations that merge seamlessly with the living rock. The medieval builders had an intuitive understanding of engineering that modern architects still admire. They knew how to distribute weight, how to use wooden beams to tie structures together, how to work with the natural fractures and strengths of the pink stone. You notice how the buildings adapt to their sites rather than forcing the sites to adapt to them. A house built around a boulder, incorporating it into its foundation. A wall that follows the natural curve of the cliff face. doorways placed where the rock naturally creates a level entrance. This is architecture as conversation with the landscape, not domination of it. The pink stones themselves are endlessly fascinating. Each one has its own character, its own particular shade and texture. Some are smooth and fine-grained, others rough with visible layers of sediment. The color varies from pale salmon to deep rose, sometimes with veins of white gypsum or darker iron deposits running through. Together, they create walls that are never monotonous, always alive with the subtle variation. Wooden balconies project from upper floors, their undersides revealing the massive beams that support them. These voladizos are engineering marvels, cantilevered out over the street, using techniques that haven't changed since medieval times. The wood is aged to a silver gray that complements the pink stone perfectly. Some balconies still have their original ironwork railings, twisted into simple but elegant patterns. You've reached a small mirador, a viewpoint where the town opens up to reveal the landscape beyond. The natural setting of Albarracin becomes clear from here. The town sits in a dramatic loop of the Guadalajara River, which has carved a deep canyon through the pink rock. The cliffs drop away dramatically on three sides, creating a natural peninsula fortified by geography itself. The vegetation clinging to the cliffs and filling the ravines is specially adapted to this dry, rocky environment. Juniper trees twist from crevices in the pink stone, their roots finding purchase in impossible places. Wild rosemary and thyme carpet the slopes, their gray-green foliage a perfect complement to the rose-colored rock. In spring, these hills would be dotted with wildflowers, but now, in the gentle evening, the plants are settling into their nighttime rest. Returning to the narrow streets, you notice the ingenious water management system. Channels carved into the stone direct rainwater away from foundations. Ancient pipes, some ceramic, some lead, still function after centuries. Fountains appear at regular intervals, fed by springs high in the mountains. The sound of trickling water is never far away, a cooling presence in this dry landscape. The Church of Santiago shows a different aspect of Albarracin's architecture. Its bell tower rises modestly above the surrounding buildings, built from the same pink stone, but in larger, more regular blocks. The entrance portal features a delicate stone carving, geometric patterns that show Moorish influence filtered through Christian symbolism. Inside, you glimpse wooden ceiling beams, painted with medieval designs, their colors faded to gentle earth tones. As you walk, you become aware of the acoustic properties of these narrow streets. Sounds carry in unusual ways. A conversation in a distant plaza reaches you clearly, then fades as you turn a corner. Your own footsteps echo softly between the pink walls, creating a gentle rhythm that matches your breathing. The town seems designed to amplify peaceful sounds while muffling harsh ones. The castle ruins crown the highest point, their broken walls framing views of the evening sky. These fortifications are older than the town below, possibly dating back to Roman times. The pink stone here is more weathered, worn by wind and rain into rounded organic shapes. Nature is slowly reclaiming these walls, with small plants growing from crevices and lizards basking on sun-warmed stones. Standing among the ruins, you can understand why this site has been occupied for so long. It commands views in every direction, but more than that, it feels right. There's something about the way the pink rock emerges from the earth here, the way the river curves below, the way the mountains frame the horizon. This is a place that calls to something deep in human nature, a desire for shelter, beauty, and connection to the landscape. The evening light is changing the colors of everything. The pink stones are deepening to coral and amber. Shadows are growing longer and softer. The sky is beginning its slow transition from blue to purple to indigo. This is the magic hour in Albarracin, when the boundary between the built environment and the natural world becomes even more blurred. The cultural life of Albarracin unfolds gently in these evening hours. As you descend from the castle, you encounter locals going about their evening routines with an unhurried grace that seems embedded in the very stones of the town. An elderly woman waters geraniums on her balcony, the pink and red flowers echoing the colors of the stones. Her movements are slow and deliberate, a meditation in themselves. The tradition of the paseo, the evening walk, is sacred here. Families emerge from their houses as the day cools, walking slowly through the narrow streets, greeting neighbors, sharing the news of the day. Children's voices echo softly off the pink walls, their games quiet and imaginative. This is not the rushed socializing of larger cities, but something more intimate, more connected. You pass a small workshop where a craftsman is still practicing traditional ironwork. The gentle tap-tap-tap of his hammer on hot metal creates a rhythmic soundtrack to the evening. He's making decorative pieces using designs that have been passed down through generations. Scrollwork and flowers, geometric patterns that echo the Moorish influence. The smell of hot metal and coal mingles with the evening air. The wool tradition that once made Albarracin prosperous has left its mark on the culture. Though the large-scale industry is gone, some families still keep sheep in the surrounding hills. You can sometimes hear their bells in the distance, a tinkling melody carried on the wind. The old washing places by the river, where wool was once cleaned, are now peaceful spots where locals gather to talk. Food traditions here are simple but profound. The pink stones have witnessed centuries of cooking with the same basic ingredients. Lamb from the hills, vegetables from terraced gardens, wild herbs gathered from the mountainsides. In one house, you smell bread baking, the ancient aroma of wheat and yeast and fire that has filled these streets since medieval times. The ceramic tradition of Albarracin produces pottery with a distinctive green glaze, the color derived from copper oxide found in the local hills. These ceramics, like the pink stones, connect the town to its geological foundation. Plates, bowls, and tiles all carry this signature green, creating a visual harmony with the rose-colored architecture. Religious traditions blend seamlessly here, layers of belief systems that have coexisted for centuries. The cathedral bells mark the hours, but their sound is gentle, not demanding. Small shrines tucked into wall niches hold fresh flowers, maintained by anonymous hands. The old Muslim fountain still provides water for ritual washing, though now it's mainly used by tired travelers cooling their hands and faces. You discover that Albarracin has its own legend of impossible love. The story of the lovers of Teruel actually begins here, with a young man from Albarracin. The tale, like the town itself, is bittersweet rather than tragic, speaking of love that transcends death. Locals tell it quietly, without drama, as if it's simply another layer of history embedded in the pink stones. The tradition of maintaining the medieval character of the town is itself a cultural practice. residents take pride in preserving not just the buildings, but the atmosphere. Modern additions are hidden, cables buried, signs kept discreet. This is not museum preservation, but living conservation, keeping the town authentic while allowing it to breathe and evolve. Music drifts from an open window. Someone is playing a Spanish guitar, the notes slow and contemplative. This is not flamenco's passion, but something quieter, more introspective. The melody seems to match the rhythm of the evening, rising and falling like breath, like the flight of the swallows still circling in the fading light. The tradition of storytelling continues in the Plaza Mayor, where a few elderly men sit on stone benches, their voices low and measured. They're not performing, just remembering. Stories of the Civil War when Albarracin miraculously escaped major damage. Tales of shepherds who knew every path in the mountains. Memories of festivals when the whole town danced in these narrow streets. Children here grow up with a different sense of time. Without wide streets for cars, without the rush of modern life, they develop a natural patience. You watch them playing a simple game, with stones and chalk completely absorbed, unhurried. They seem to understand intuitively what adults often forget, that there's no need to rush. The siesta tradition is respected here, not as laziness, but as wisdom. The town understands the rhythm of rest and activity, the importance of pausing in the heat of the day. Even now in the evening, there's no sense of making up for lost time. Everything moves at its natural pace. Local festivals maintain ancient rhythms. The Feast of the Virgin in September fills these narrow streets with processions. But even celebrations here are gentle. Music echoes off the pink walls, candles flicker in windows, flower petals carpet the cobblestones. But it's all done with a kind of quiet joy, a peaceful reverence. The evening continues to deepen around you, and Albarracin transforms with each passing moment. The pink stones, which glowed so warmly in the late afternoon sun, are now taking on cooler tones. Lavender shadows pool in doorways and gather in the corners of plazas. The town is settling into its nighttime rhythm, as it has done for 1,000 years. This particular season, late spring into early summer, is perhaps when Albarracin is at its most peaceful. The harsh cold of winter has passed, but the intense heat of full summer hasn't yet arrived. The temperature is perfect for wandering, for sitting, for simply being. The pink stones have absorbed just enough warmth during the day to radiate it gently back now as the air cools. You notice how the light changes the perception of space in these narrow streets. What seemed confined in bright daylight now feels cozy and protective. The shadows soften the edges of buildings, making everything flow together. The pink stones seem to hold the last of the daylight within them, glowing faintly as if lit from within. The sounds of evening are different from those of day. Gone is the occasional clatter of delivery trucks navigating the wider streets at the town's edges. Instead, there's the evening chorus of birds settling into their roosts. Swallows give way to bats, their silent flight barely visible against the darkening sky. House martins twitter softly from nests built under the eaves of pink stone houses. The mountain air is cooling rapidly now, carrying new scents. The wild herbs on the hillsides release their oils as the temperature drops. Lavender, rosemary, and sage create a natural aromatherapy that drifts through the streets. From somewhere comes the smell of wood smoke as fireplaces are lit against the evening chill. You find yourself in a small plaza where an ancient tree provides a canopy of leaves. This tree has witnessed centuries of evenings like this one. Its roots have found their way deep beneath the pink stones, tapping into hidden water sources. Its branches create moving shadows on the walls, a gentle dance that hypnotizes and calms. The seasonal cycle here is marked by subtle changes rather than dramatic shifts. In winter, snow occasionally dusts the pink stones, creating a magical contrast of white on rose. Spring brings wildflowers to the hills and nesting birds to the eaves. Summer intensifies the colors, making the stones glow like embers in the strong sun. Autumn turns the leaves of the few deciduous trees to gold, complementing the warm tones of the architecture. But now, in this gentle evening, you're experiencing the daily cycle that's perhaps even more fundamental than the seasons. The transition from day to night that has been observed and honored here since humans first built shelters on this cliff. There's something deeply comforting about participating in this ancient rhythm. The first stars are beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Here, far from major cities, the night sky retains its clarity. Venus emerges first, bright and steady above the western horizon. Then other stars, one by one, until the sky begins to fill with points of light. The Milky Way will be visible later, stretching across the sky like a river of light. The temperature continues to drop, but gently. This is not the harsh cold of winter, but the refreshing coolness that makes sleep come easily. You pull your light jacket closer, appreciating its warmth. The pink stones are still releasing their stored heat, creating microclimates of warmth along the walls. Windows begin to glow with warm light as lamps are lit inside houses. The light filtering through curtains and shutters creates patterns on the narrow streets. Some windows reveal glimpses of daily life. A family gathering for dinner, someone reading in a comfortable chair, the blue flicker of a television providing modern entertainment in ancient rooms. The cathedral bell tolls the hour, its bronze voice echoing off the pink stones. The sound is deep and resonant, but not jarring. It's a reminder of time passing, but gentle, like everything else here. The bells have been marking time in Albarracin for centuries, their rhythm as natural as breathing. You realize that this evening transition is perhaps the best time to experience Albarracin, not in the bright light of midday, when the pink stones can seem almost too vivid, nor in the deep night when details are lost. But now, in this in-between time when the town reveals its subtle beauty, its layers of history, its peaceful soul, the moon is rising now, almost full, casting silver light that mingles with the last gold of sunset. The pink stones take on an almost ethereal quality in this mixed light, neither fully day nor night colors. They seem to shift and change as you watch, alive with the subtle variations. This is the time when Albarracin feels most like stepping into a dream, real enough to touch, to walk through, to breathe in, but also somehow outside normal time, existing in its own peaceful bubble where the modern world feels very far away. Away from the main paths, Albarracin reveals its secret places. You turn down an alley so narrow that you can touch both pink stone walls at once. This passage seems forgotten by time, used only by cats and the occasional local who knows its shortcuts. The stones here are worn smooth at shoulder height, where countless people have steadied themselves while navigating the steep incline. At the end of this alley, you discover a tiny plaza that can't be more than 10 feet across. It's really just a widening where three passages meet, but someone has placed a pot of geraniums on a windowsill, and there's a small stone bench worn smooth by use. This is one of those perfect pause points, a place to catch your breath and let the peace of the evening settle into your bones. The sound of water draws you down another narrow way. You find a forgotten fountain, its basin carved from a single block of pink stone. The water emerges from a simple pipe, probably fed by the same spring that's been flowing for centuries. The overflow runs into a channel cut into the street, eventually finding its way to the river far below. You cup the water in your hands. It's cold and sweet, tasting of the mountains. Behind the church of Santa Maria, you discover a small garden terrace. It's barely maintained, but wild in the best way. Roses climb over pink stone walls, their blooms pale in the evening light. An old fig tree spreads its broad leaves, creating a canopy of green. Stone steps, each one slightly different, lead up to another level where you can see over the rooftops to the mountains beyond. These hidden corners each have their own microclimate, their own atmosphere. In one, the walls trap warmth and the scent of jasmine. In another, cool air pools and moss grows on the pink stones, turning them soft green in places. Each secret spot is a small world, complete in itself. You find an abandoned house, its wooden door hanging open. Inside, the pink stone walls are exposed, showing the construction techniques of centuries past. Wooden beams cross the ceiling, darkened with age but still solid. Through a broken shutter, evening light streams in, illuminating dust motes that dance slowly in the air. There's no sadness here, just peaceful decay. Nature slowly reclaiming what was always hers. A steep stairway cut directly into the pink rock leads you to another level of the town. The steps are worn into curves, each one shaped by thousands of feet over hundreds of years. Halfway up, there's a small niche in the wall where someone has placed a tiny bouquet of wild flowers. They're fresh, picked today, a small act of beauty that no one but you might notice. You discover that some houses have secret connections, passages that run through buildings, under arches, between walls. These create a three-dimensional maze that only longtime residents fully understand. Following one such passage, you emerge unexpectedly in a different part of town, momentarily disoriented but delighted by the surprise. There's a spot where the medieval wall has partially collapsed, creating a natural window in the fortifications. Through this gap, you can see the river far below, silver in the moonlight. The sound of water over rocks drifts up, so faint it's almost imaginary. This is a perfect meditation spot, a place where the boundary between the town and the wild landscape dissolves. In the old Jewish quarter, you find a house with the symbols carved into its doorframe. They're worn almost smooth, but you can still make out the shapes. A hand, a star, characters that might be Hebrew. These marks were meant to protect, to bless, to remember. They've been doing their quiet work for centuries. Another turn reveals a tiny chapel, so small it can hold perhaps 6 people. The door is open, and inside, a single candle burns before a simple altar. The walls are pink stone, unadorned except for the natural patterns in the rock. The silence here is profound, the kind that seems to slow your heartbeat, deepen your breathing. You find a spot where 3 cats have gathered, sitting in a perfect triangle on warm stones. They watch you with that casual interest cats have, neither welcoming nor rejecting your presence. This is their evening meeting place, their own secret corner of Albarracin. You pass quietly, not wanting to disturb their conference. Some doorways reveal glimpses of interior courtyards. These hidden spaces are like jewel boxes, carefully tended oases of green and flower color. In one, you see a small fountain playing, its water catching the last light. In another, an elderly man sits reading, so absorbed he doesn't notice you passing. There's a place where the pink stone has been carved with graffiti, but ancient graffiti. Names and dates from the 1800s, the 1700s, even earlier. These marks are history too, the human need to say, "I was here," transcending centuries. The pink stone accepts all these marks with equal patience. As full darkness approaches, these hidden corners become even more mysterious. Shadows deepen into black pools. Distant lights create will-o'-the-wisp effects. The pink stones fade to gray, then to mere suggestions of form. But there's no fear here, just deeper peace, deeper quiet. The stones of Albarakin hold countless stories, whispered from generation to generation, like lullabies. As you wander these darkening streets, you can almost hear them, tales that blur the line between history and legend, between memory and dream. There's the story of the pink stone mason, a mysterious figure from the town's earliest days. Legend says he was a Moorish craftsman who discovered the secret of making the stones glow. He would work only at night, by moonlight, and his stones were said to hold the warmth of the sun, even in winter. Some say that on quiet evenings like this you can still hear the gentle tap of his chisel, adding one more perfect stone to the eternal construction of Albaratin. The locals tell of a hidden tunnel that runs from the castle to the river, carved through solid pink rock. It was meant as an escape route during sieges, but it became something more. Lovers would meet there in secret, their whispers absorbed by the rose-colored walls. The tunnel has never been found, but sometimes when the wind is just right, you can hear what sounds like distant voices coming from beneath the streets. In the Plaza Mayor, they speak quietly of the night of the floating lights. Once every few years, on no predictable schedule, small lights appear in the air above the town. They drift slowly, peacefully, like seeds on the wind. Some say they're the souls of all who ever loved this place, returning for a visit. Others believe they're lights from the old Jewish quarter, Sabbath candles that never went out. The lights harm no one, bless everyone, and disappear with the dawn. There's a house near the city wall where a woman in the 16th century embroidered a map of the stars onto a huge piece of silk. She worked on it every night for 20 years, adding stars as she learned their names and positions. The silk is long gone, but they say that in that house, you can still see stars even on cloudy nights. The ceiling seems to open to reveal the cosmos, peaceful and eternal. The River Guardian is another gentle legend. An old man who lived by the Guadalaviar centuries ago, who knew every mood of the water, every fish, every stone in its bed. When he died, he didn't leave. Instead, he became part of the river itself. Now he ensures the water always flows clear and clean into Albarracin. Sometimes very early in the morning or late in the evening, people see him sitting by the water, an old man made of mist and memory, watching over his beloved river. Children here grow up with the story of the rose-stone garden. Somewhere in the maze of streets is a tiny courtyard where the pink stones bloom like flowers once a year. No one knows exactly where it is. It seems to move, or perhaps it only reveals itself to those who need to find it. Those who have seen it say the stone roses are perfect, down to the tiniest detail, and they give off the faintest perfume of real roses. The cathedral has its own peaceful legend. During its construction, a young apprentice fell from the scaffolding, but instead of falling to his death, he floated gently down like a feather. The pink stones, the legend says, had absorbed so many prayers over the centuries that they had become sacred, unable to allow harm within their shadow. The apprentice became a master builder and spent his life adding beauty to the town that had saved him. There's a tale of the Moorish princess who loved the Christian knight. Unlike most such stories, this one has a happy ending. They didn't die tragically or pine away. Instead, they lived quietly in Albarracín, their love blessed by the pink stones that don't care about the divisions humans create. Their descendants, the story goes, still live here, carrying both bloodlines, both traditions, in peace. The window of dreams is a specific window in a specific house, though no one agrees which one. Look through it at just the right time of evening, and you see not the street beyond, but your heart's desire. Not in a magical way, but in a peaceful, clarifying way. The window shows you what you really want, stripped of fear and pretense. Many people have stood before various windows in Albarracín at dusk, hoping for that moment of clarity. The softest legend is of the lullaby stones. Certain pink stones in certain walls are said to sing very quietly at night. Not a human song, but a geological lullaby, the sound of minerals settling, of ancient seas remembering their waves. Parents have been bringing fretful children to these walls for generations, holding them close to the stone until they calm and sleep. There's also the story of the town's protection. Why did Albarracín survive when so many medieval towns fell to war, plague, or abandonment? The legend says it's because the town made a pact with time itself. Not to stop time, but to move with it so gently that change comes like erosion, grain by grain, never violent, never sudden. The pink stones are the physical manifestation of this pact, soft enough to wear away, strong enough to endure. These stories aren't told dramatically. They're shared quietly, like secrets, like gifts. Each one adds another layer to the peaceful atmosphere of the evening. Whether you believe them or not doesn't matter. They're true in the way that dreams are true, in the way that peace is true. The evening has deepened into true night now, and Albarracín is settling into its ancient sleep. You find yourself moving more slowly, your steps matching the rhythm of this drowsy town. The pink stones have faded to the softest gray in the darkness, visible now more as texture than color. Like the memory of roses, the streets are almost empty. Occasionally you pass a late walker, perhaps someone else who couldn't resist one more wander through these peaceful passages. You exchange quiet buenas noches. Your voice is soft, not wanting to disturb the settling silence. Even your footsteps seem quieter now, as if the stones themselves are encouraging hush. You're drawn toward the edge of town, where the buildings give way to the natural cliff. There's a small park here, just a few benches and trees, but it offers a perfect view of the night landscape. You sit on one of the benches, the wood still holding a trace of the day's warmth. Below, the river whispers its endless story. Above, the stars continue their slow wheel across the sky. The lights of Albarracín are few and gentle. No harsh street lights here, just the soft glow from windows and the occasional old-fashioned lamp. The town seems to breathe with light, a gentle pulse of illumination that doesn't fight the darkness, but makes peace with it. Some windows go dark as residents retire for the night. Others remain lit, suggesting quiet evening activities, reading, conversation, the simple pleasure of being home. The air is cooled to the perfect sleeping temperature, cool enough to want a blanket, warm enough to leave windows cracked open. You breathe deeply, filling your lungs with the mountain air that carries hints of all the day's scents: stone and herb, flower and wood smoke, the faintest trace of dinner cooking, the clean smell of approaching dew. A cat pads silently past on some nocturnal mission known only to itself. It pauses to look at you, its eyes reflecting the moonlight, then continues on its way. Even the cats move more slowly at night here, as if they too feel the peaceful weight of all this history, all this accumulated calm. You rise from the bench and begin a slow circuit back through the town. This final walk is like a meditation, each step deliberate and peaceful. The narrow streets that seemed maze-like earlier now feel familiar, welcoming. You know your way not by sight but by feel, the particular texture of stones beneath your feet, the way the air moves differently in each passage. The pink stones are cooling now, no longer radiating the day's heat. They're returning to their nighttime temperature, the same coolness they've known for countless thousands of nights. Your hand trails along the walls as you walk, feeling the transition, the slow breathing of the stone. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint sound of a guitar. Someone is playing very softly, perhaps on a balcony, perhaps through an open window. The melody is simple, repetitive, hypnotic. It's not a performance but a private pleasure, someone playing for the joy of it, for the peace of it. You pass the fountain again, its water still trickling steadily. The sound is even more soothing in the darkness, a constant that anchors you to the present moment, while also connecting you to all the moments that came before. How many people have paused here over the centuries, listening to this same sound, feeling this same peace? The moon has risen higher now, casting silver light into the narrow streets. Where it touches the pink stones, they seem to glow faintly, as if remembering the sun. Shadows are deep and soft, creating pools of darkness that feel protective rather than threatening. This is a darkness you could walk into without fear, knowing it holds nothing but more peace. Your breathing has slowed to match the rhythm of the town. In and out, steady and calm. Your heartbeat, too, has found a quieter pace. Everything in your body is responding to the deep tranquility of this place, preparing for rest even as you continue to walk. The church bell tolls again, marking a late hour. The bronze voice echoes off the stones, then fades into silence. After it passes, the quiet seems even deeper, as if the bell has cleared the air for an even more profound peace. You find yourself back in the Plaza Mayor, completing a circle. The plaza is empty now, lit only by moonlight and the faint glow from a few windows. You stand in the center, turning slowly, taking in the full 360-degree view of pink stone walls rising around you. This could be any century. This moment exists outside of time. The desire to rest is becoming stronger now. Not tiredness exactly, but a gentle pull towards sleep. The town itself seems to be suggesting it's time to rest, to let go of the day, to sink into dreams. The pink stones will be here tomorrow, and the tomorrow after that, and for tomorrows beyond counting. And so, peaceful wanderer, Our gentle journey through Albaracin's pink stone maze begins to draw to its natural close. The town is fully settled into its nighttime rest now, wrapped in the soft darkness like a well-worn blanket. The pink stones have released the last of their warmth into the cool night air, and now they sleep too, dreaming their geological dreams of ancient seas and desert winds. You're standing at a quiet overlook, gazing out at the landscape that cradles this remarkable town. The mountains are just dark shapes against a star-filled sky. The river below is a ribbon of silver moonlight. Everything is exactly as it should be, exactly as it has been for centuries. There's nothing more to do, nowhere else to go. Just this moment of perfect peace. The narrow streets behind you are silent now. All the residents have retired to their pink stone houses, to beds that have been in families for generations. They sleep peacefully, knowing their town will watch over them. These ancient walls that have provided shelter and safety for 1,000 years. Even the cats have found their nighttime resting places, curled in doorways or on still warm stones. The air is perfectly still. No wind disturbs the quietude. The only movement is the slow wheel of stars across the sky and the gentle trickle of water in fountains. These sounds are so soft, they're almost silence themselves. They don't break the peace but deepen it, like the breathing of someone deeply asleep. You can feel the weight of peaceful history in every stone. All the generations who have lived here, loved here, found rest here. Their presence isn't ghostly or disturbing. It's comforting, like being surrounded by kindly ancestors who want nothing more than for you to rest well, to find the same peace they found. The pink stones seem to pulse gently in the moonlight, not with any supernatural energy, but with the natural rhythm of heating and cooling, expanding and contracting. It's the heartbeat of the earth itself, so slow and steady that you have to be perfectly still to perceive it. This rhythm is hypnotic, soothing, drawing you deeper into tranquility. Your mind is quiet now. The thoughts and concerns of the day have faded away like morning mist. There's only this moment, this place, this perfect peace. The pink stone maze of Albarracin has worked its ancient magic, slowing everything down to the pace of stone, the pace of stars, the pace of deep, restful sleep. The moonlight on the pink stones creates patterns that shift gently as clouds drift across the sky. Light and shadow, rose and gray, a constantly changing but never jarring display. It's like watching the world breathe, slow and steady, in and out. Your own breathing naturally synchronizes with this rhythm. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls once, softly, then falls silent. It's not an alarming sound, but a gentle punctuation, a reminder that life continues its quiet cycles even in the depths of night. Then silence returns, even deeper than before. The temperature has found that perfect balance, cool enough to make you appreciate warmth, warm enough to feel comfortable. This is sleeping weather, the kind that makes your eyelids heavy and your muscles relax. The pink stones have created microclimates throughout the town, pockets of perfect temperature that invite rest. You begin one final slow walk through the sleeping streets. Each step is deliberate, peaceful, final. You're saying goodnight to the pink stones, to the narrow passages, to the hidden plazas. They'll all be here tomorrow, unchanged, patient, peaceful. But for now, it's time to rest. The fountain still whispers its water song. The moon still silvers the ancient walls. The stars still wheel in their eternal dance. Everything continues its peaceful existence, needing nothing from you except that you rest, that you find peace, that you let go. Your journey through Albarracin's pink stone maze is complete. You've walked its narrow streets, touched its ancient walls, breathed its mountain air. You've heard its stories, felt its history, absorbed its deep tranquility. Now all of this becomes part of your dreams, woven into your rest. The pink stones will hold their watch through the night. They've been here for millions of years, and they'll be here for millions more. In their geological patience, your brief visit is just a moment, but a moment they've made peaceful, restful, perfect. Close your eyes now, peaceful wanderer. Let the image of those rose-colored walls fade gently into the darkness behind your eyelids. Feel yourself sinking into comfort, into rest, into the deep peace that Albarracin has gifted you. The narrow streets are empty. The pink stones are cool and quiet. The moon watches over all, and you are safe, peaceful, drifting into the sweetest dreams. Dreams of rose-colored stones and narrow passages. Dreams of mountain air and ancient peace. Dreams of a place where time moves slowly and every breath brings deeper calm. Rest now. Rest deeply. Rest peacefully. The pink stone maze of Albarracin has shared its secrets with you, and now it releases you into perfect sleep. The stones will be there in your dreams, glowing softly, creating a peaceful landscape for your sleeping mind to wander. Everything is quiet, everything is still, everything is exactly as it should be. The pink stones of Albarracin hold you in their ancient embrace, and you sink deeper, deeper, deeper into the most restful sleep. Good night, peaceful wanderer. May your dreams be filled with rose-colored stones and starlit skies. May your rest be as deep as the mountains and as peaceful as the rivers flow. May you wake refreshed, carrying a piece of Albarracin's tranquility with you always. The pink stones sleep. The narrow streets sleep. The ancient town sleeps. And you sleep too, perfectly peaceful, perfectly at rest, in the gentle embrace of Albarracin's timeless calm.